Keep digging until I get back. Long ago in a land a couple hundred miles away, my father wanted to dress up the front corner of our property with a section of decorative fence and a few rose bushes. Myself, being a tween-age boy and not having the good sense to be somewhere else, was drafted to help him one hot July Saturday afternoon. We brought the new fence posts to the corner of the lot, along with a shovel and a post hole digger, and set about the task. It was a long slow process, as the clay-heavy soil was fairly dry and hard-baked, and as such each hole was taking the better part of 20 minutes to dig. This definitely wasn't on the list of things I wanted to spend my afternoon doing, but such is life. Right about the time we started on the final hole, Mom yelled to Dad from the house, announcing that he had a phone call. As these were the days before mobile phones, Dad headed off to the house and instructed me to keep digging until I get back. Lucky for me, this hole went a bit different than the first 4. About the moment he got to the door of the house, I busted through the clay layer into much sandier soil where I could get a couple inches of soil in one scoop rather than perhaps a 1/4 inch per scoop. Easy peasy. Now, I was a good kid. I didn't cause trouble of any significant variety, I got good grades, and I helped out around the house when I got caught unawares. But seizing an opportunity for malicious compliance was definitely among my personal strengths. So I kept digging. And digging. Post holer in, squeeze, post holer out, dump, repeat. Dad wasn't on that phone call very long, but I made good time, and by the time I saw him at the door coming back, I was quite literally putting the post holer all the way into the ground to the point where the tips of the handles were just below the surface of the ground, and I couldn't really dig because I couldn't open up the handles to squeeze the digging end any longer. So, if I had to guess, I'd say that hole was about 5 feet deep. Dad, how's it going? Me, I think it's deep enough now. Dad, let's put the post in and check. Me, huge grin while he stoops over to pick up the post. Dad proceeds to drop the post in the hole. All the way in the hole. See, these posts were maybe hip height when installed, probably about 5 feet long themselves. So, there's Dad, momentarily struck speechless, amazement washing across his face. He looks at me. Me, you told me to keep digging until you got back. Shrugs. Dad, you little shit. Laughs. Dad had to grab the post with his fingertips and pull it back out of hole, and it wasn't but a few seconds of work to refill the hole to the proper depth. And to this day he loves telling the story of his maliciously compliant son.
Now to the comments. OP replied. Follow up, years later Dad realized he should have followed the call before you dig rule. Turns out that hole I was digging was within a foot or two of an underground main power line for the neighborhood. He still has a bit of an I almost killed us guilt about it. And just to head off the puns at the pass, he was kind of shocked when he learned where that line was buried.
Unexpectedly finding sand while digging is actually a sign you might have found a trench where pipes or wires are buried. It should be taken as a warning that something might be down there.
Came here to post this. If it's difficult digging then suddenly sand, something is likely buried nearby. Proceed with caution. Wholesome as duck. Love it.
I think you meant wholesome as duck.
Reddit does love to see a good post.
OP replied. You must be mistaken, there's no post, as far as I can see.
Well, if this happened long ago, is it time for you to go back there and help him? Repost it? Glad your dad had a positive reaction to this.
I'd be willing to bet OP's skills in malicious compliance were, at least in part, learned by parental example. Source: my kids think malicious compliance is hilarious.
My mom would tell me to holler at my dad on occasion, instead of doing what she intended and telling him breakfast/lunch/dinner is ready. I would walk to the bottom of the stairs and just yell, "Holla," at him. You little shit. He was as proud as one can be, for he was outdogged. LMAO. Pro tip for clay: soak with water to make it a lot easier to dig. I did this when running low voltage conduit in my backyard, sped the job up significantly.
I grew up in an area where the dirt was red from all the clay in it, and sometimes soaking it just means you end up with a muddy mess that eats one of your shoes. Or your tractor. Or both your tractor and the pickup you tried to drag the tractor out with. After that, my grandfather called it tow truck.
Alabama or Georgia? Good story. Also, this is why you dig post holes in spring and not summer. Holy post holes, that was mighty fine MC, right there. As a former kid who did not have such a patient father with a sense of humor, I give you the first award I've ever given. Heartwarming. I'm eternally glad there are stories out there like this one to balance out the stories of lives like mine. Don't know why this hit me tonight, but dang. Thanks for sharing.
My dad definitely would not have found this humorous. He had zero patience while working.
Gotta love working on those hot summer days with Dad. Love the story, man. r/wholesome compliance. Reminds me of a classic song about digging holes under management. I was hoping your dad's reaction would be to laugh, and I wasn't disappointed. He was a good sport about it. I love this. I got a free wholesome award today. You deserve it. My dad loved to call me a little shit too. Thanks for reminding me. Really put your PhD to work.
OP replied. Doh. It took me 19 hours to get the joke.
One of my favorites that was taught to me by my best friend's dad because we didn't have the good sense not to be at his house on the day. He put up a new fence to keep the neighbor's goat out. If I wasn't so lazy, I'd do that. That's also the exact response my dad would give.
OP replied. In recent years, Dad has expressed his past frustration that when I was young, he couldn't often get me to direct that sort of energy into meaningful work.
Reminds me of the time my dad gave me $20 and told me to go to the store and buy a bunch of bananas. I got about $20 worth of bananas. He wanted a single bunch, 5 to 6, but I got a whole lot, 20 plus, of them. Great story. Once when I was about 7 to 8 years old, I wanted to dig to China like Bugs Bunny. My dad, when he got home off of work, was not amused one bit. My mom didn't think to check on me outside as we didn't have a pool and we had a fence. I wasn't going anywhere. I dug quite a hole for a kid. Stories like this remind me that we used the height of the post hole digger as our intended depth due to the frost line. It sucked the summer my parents put in a couple 100 feet of wooden fence when I was a teen. Is wholesome malicious compliance a thing? I think this is it. Love it, that is some wholesome malicious compliance. One thing caught me off guard: is your dad 10 feet tall? See, these posts were maybe hip height when installed, probably about 5 feet long themselves. Or did I just misread that? LOL, no harm no foul. Edit, I'm stupid as hell. The whole post is 5 feet, a few go into the ground, leaving 2 to 3 feet that can go to the hip. I dumb. This was really well written. I dig your style. Crying in Canada, post holes here are at least 4 deep for the frost.
OP replied. Well, this was next door to Canada. The posts should have been buried deeper than they were. That's on him though. I certainly didn't know anything about frost lines at that age. Unfortunately, I do now, and built a retaining wall to deal with it.
It's a post holer, it makes holes for posts.
You had me until post holer.
Sweet story, OP. My dad laughing and calling me a little shit was usually his way of expressing love, he never used that expression otherwise.
OP replied. Mostly agreed. I'm certain I heard it more than once when I did really screw something up for him, but mostly it was a "you got one up on me, good job" vibe.
Nearly spat my morning coffee all over my phone laughing, now that's some wholesome malicious compliance. Shoof.
I felt that in my wrists.
When I was 15, I had a job at a really shitty beach boardwalk pizza place. The boss lady was so duckin' mean and crazy by the end of the first year there I was the only employee left. Everyone else either left or was fired. She told me once that she needed me to work through 4th of July weekend but after that I was fired. Why would I stay? Anyways, she told me no morning to wash and peel potatoes until I get back. I don't know what the duck she was doing but I was a kid and I lost track of time. All I know is I was supposed to do potatoes. So I did. For 2 hours. Apparently, I had done all of the potatoes. She was pretty mad. Although, duck, you don't leave a kid with one task and dip out for hours. Even with the threat of receiving the belt, I would have definitely done this. This has me laughing like a madman. Good thing no one is around to hear me.